Advancing to the grand finals. There's so much at stake in this one. These are going to be very important leads for both trainers. It's going to be something a little different, something I wasn't expecting to see, but Primarina Dragapult for Jiseok and Togekiss Urshifu for Santino.
Well, I said when looking at sort of the team preview, I want to see Togekiss and Urshifu from Santino, and that's what he's led with against the Primarina and Dragapult for Jiseok. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. Togekiss has that amazing ability to go for redirection, but Urshifu can apply a lot of pressure to something like the Dragapult, whereas at the same time, Primarina with any fairy type moves can apply so much damage to the Urshifu. So I think Togekiss is going to be critical here. Maybe if it wants to Dynamax, it can go for something like a Max Starfall as well, try and pick up a KO against that Dragapult, or it can go for redirection and try and protect the Urshifu from any fairy type moves.
There's a lot of interesting decisions being made by Santino here, and this actually from Jiseok applies a lot of pressure and maybe makes these decisions way harder to make. So I'll be curious to see how these kind of land. It was definitely something different from Santino. We've seen him play a lot of these very aggressive turns where he just tries to carve out a lead turn one as soon as possible. And there's a lot of damage coming down from this Max Airstream, even with the Detect in play.
Exactly, Urshifu trying to play things defensively, but Max Airstream going to connect, break through the Detect and break a potential Focus Sash on that Pokemon. Of course, Jiseok also going to boost up the speed in his side of the field, and that's something that can be so critical. Dazzling Gleam actually coming out here from the Primarina, so redirection wouldn't have helped out that Urshifu at all, so a good protect there, as that would have very likely picked up a KO against Urshifu. As Togekiss goes for Yawn. This is something we saw a lot at the beginning of the metagame, and it's kind of dwindled out as people want to go for a more offensive Togekiss, you know, trying to run the boosted critical hit ratio with Scope Lens and Super Luck, but actually going for Yawn, really trying to slow things down a pace and force Jiseok to make some switches.
I think Yawn's one of the more interesting moves in the format because it puts your opponent in such a difficult position. They know that they're going to go to sleep at the end of the turn, and they have to make a decision, and a lot of people, I don't want to say struggle with this, but kind of back and forth in this one, go for the Yawn and just have to switch out. They don't want to go to sleep. They don't want to let that happen. So they really mix it around a lot here. It looks like Santino's actually completely ignored some of the big things on his team, and this Primarina stayed in while the Yawn is taking effect. So these Max Airstreams are going to land. They are going to hurt a lot and obviously boost the speeds, but it's a tough one.
Yeah, nice redirection from the Togekiss there. If the Max Airstream had gone into that Rillaboom, it would certainly not have appreciated. So just supporting the switch in there for Santino as Dazzling Gleam comes out from Jiseok's Primarina there. Does manage to pick up the KO against the Togekiss. That is now going to be removed from the field, but Rillaboom has got in relatively freely, and this puts Santino in a position where he can apply a lot of pressure to the Primarina. But of course, we know there's Max Airstreams coming out from that Dragapult, and the speed is going up on that side of the field. So that's something that Rillaboom has to watch out for, particularly as its redirectional Pokemon partner has now been KO'd.
It's one of those things where this Colossal's in a very interesting position. It's nice to see that he's bought it. It's been a focal point of his team, and definitely kind of keen to see him play around this one. It looks like he's going after the Primarina now it's asleep, maybe feeling like he's just going to be able to deal with the rest of the team as is, and the Primarina's been the focus of everything he's done this turn. He's kept himself safe from it for a bit, he's made sure it goes to sleep with Yawn, and he's just able to kind of keep playing around it. So, you know, looks like he feels confident in Colossal once he gets rid of that, and that's something that I think is interesting to see that's how he's assessed the matchup, and that's how he's going to play. His Dynamax is going to be a lot later, in this case the Gigantamax, but don't forget he's already down in the speed to the Airstream, and he doesn't have immediate access to Steam Engine.
Exactly. If he doesn't have the setup, the Colossal's not going to be as optimal as we've seen it previously, but one thing that Rillaboom can still do to help things out is KO that Primarina with the Grassy Glide. Straight up KO straight into the Water-type Pokemon as Dragapult goes for that Max Phantasm. Does go straight into the Rillaboom. Is enough to pick up the KO, and I think critically will be lowering the defense of that Colossal going forward, something that Santino does have to remember. But of course, Colossal's still a Pokemon that has a really unique typing and is going to be able to deal out a lot of phenomenal damage. Going for that G-Max Volplith, I really like this play because you can target down into that Dragapult, do a decent chunk of damage. Yeah, you're not going anywhere near a KO range, but you are setting those rocks about the field, and we've seen time and time again how that residual damage can start picking up, and if Santino wants to play things maybe a little bit more defensively, this can help him out. But I think the one thing he has to worry about is he's got that Urshifu coming back in. Its Focus Sash is broken. Yes, it can apply some pressure to maybe the Dragapult, but when you're looking at sort of HP, Jiseok's team is looking a lot healthier.
This is really a tough game for the Colossal to play. Now the Clefairy's in, providing so many support options for this Dragapult, keeping it safe as well as possible. But, I mean, there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to do the Steam Engine Weakness Policy turn that was so effective in that game that we saw earlier today. So he looks like he's kind of just ignoring that and just saying, you know what, I love Colossal when it gets it set up, but right now I'm not even feeling it. I'm not even worried about it, and I'm just going to play my own game. That said, the Clefairy kind of baiting it out, saying, okay, well, if you're going to try and be careful, I'm going to punish you for it, and is actually not going to be able to land any significant damage this turn. Oh,
well,
wait, no, never mind.
Going to come out. Yeah, going to come out, connect into that Clefairy. Of course, the ability there of the Urshifu with Unseen Fist going to be able to break through that Protect. So poor Clefairy kind of sitting on the field trying its best. But you can really see the bulk of that Pokemon doesn't even do 50%. As Colossal is able to follow up though with another G-Max Volcanith. Really not going to deal too much. Of course, going through that Protect, a little bit of damage. But I think critically you can see even in that Phantom Force turn, more damage is being done by those rocks.
Yeah, I mean, look at the rocks damage on the Clefairy. That makes it so manageable. And I like the Surging Strikes Clefairy. I thought there was an Aqua Jet trying to play around the Follow Me. But this Clefairy definitely can't take something like more Surging Strikes. And with that moving before the Colossal, because there's no Steam Engine boost. I mean, yeah, there's the booster speed to Dragapult, but Dragapult's guaranteed to appear really early because of this Phantom Force. And I think a lot riding right now on this Phantom Force getting a huge knockout here.
Exactly, Dragapult coming in with the Phantom Force, not actually able to pick up the KO against that Urshifu. As Urshifu able to go with that Surging Strikes once again. Such an amazing animation, this one here, connecting into that Clefairy. We already saw from the damage that was previously taken, it's not going to be able to hang on, and it only takes 2 to KO the little fairy Pokemon there. The Colossal, though, going to be in another position to go for its third max move, another G-Max Volcanith. This time going to target into the Dragapult that has reappeared and pick up a really strong KO. So sometimes it goes that way, you know, it looked like Jiseok had a really nice advantage at one point, you know, Santino down to these 2 last Pokemon and the Urshifu having its Focus Sash broken, but just in the matter of one turn, Santino's been able to switch right back onto the offensive, apply a lot of pressure and pick up 2 KOs, leaving Jiseok down to bring in his own Urshifu.
The Urshifu's going to be kind of up against it, right? Struggling to... You got to be careful. I mean, yes, Surging Strikes is going to do a lot of damage, and that's kind of one way around it. But you're against an opposing Urshifu as well. It's a tough one. It really is. And I think that this Colossal has put itself in quite a good position, even without the classic Steam Engine, along with weakness policies so far. That said... There's no redirection on the field now. So if you're the Colossal, you're thinking, all right, we're quids in here, lads. We can, you know, try and set that up. And that Colossal should just be able to kind of sweep through the end of the game, right? It's just got to deal with an Urshifu, which, don't get me wrong, the sun's up. So the Surging Strikes are still going to hurt a lot, but they are at least a little bit reduced. But there's a good chance you don't even give him that option. It looks like Santino changing his mind a little bit at the last minute, but his Urshifu will be moving first, and yeah, there's no way that the Urshifu can knock out both Pokemon over on Santino's side.
No, it can try its best. I mean, it's going for the Surging Strikes here. So again, we have got that Rapid Strike style Urshifu. Targeting down to the Urshifu on Santino's side is going to be able to pick up the KO against it. But you know, it's not one of those moves that third one redirects onto the Colossal, for example. And you wouldn't really want it to anyway at the risk of activating all of those boosts. Colossal going to go for that Solar Beam, of course, going to absorb up all the sunlight and apply pressure on the next turn to this Urshifu that, you know, taking damage from the rocks, being the water type variant, does not want to be taking Solar Beam, particularly with grassy terrain in the field as well. Like, everything is just looking so good for this Colossal right now, and it didn't even get its boosts.
Right, I mean, the Colossal's probably feeling pretty good about its chances. And playing a game without boosts is actually pretty impressive. It's going to be up to the Surging Strikes to try and get it done, which, yeah, that's going to tidy that one up. No doubt on that one. I think playing it safe with the Solar Beam, probably not the way to go in that one. It only needed one hit. And I kind of wasn't expecting the Solar Beam at the end of that game, right? Because you weren't able to use it immediately, and that's a problem, right? That's certainly an issue. So Jiseok takes a lead in this set, and that's something that, you know, we haven't actually seen Santino have to fight back from in this one.
So it goes that way sometimes, and I'm going to be honest, I kind of forgot that the Colossal didn't have all its boosts, because we so rarely see it out of that kind of boost synergy scenario, and obviously the speed tiers were working against it then. It didn't have its max speed from the Steam engine, so the Urshifu was able to go first, and that was something that, you know, just caught me a little bit of surprise there, because Colossal once again looking so strong, but the two-chargedness, I want to say, of the Solar Beam definitely causes a few problems for it, where it can't move on that one turn where it was able to, leaving the Urshifu free to pick up a solid KO against it. And, you know, Colossal doesn't want to take any water type moves. It wants to take one little one to activate all of its boosts, but then that's enough. It's had enough water.
Yeah, not setting that up was kind of a bold play towards the end from Santino. But let's head into game 2 and see if he can bounce back. He did have to adapt his strategy from what we've seen earlier in the day, and it wouldn't shock me to see if he just kind of defaults back to it. It looks like the same lead from Jiseok, very, very kind of confident in that lead. And there is going to be a change from Santino, showing his team has multiple options. That Yawn was definitely a slower play than we've seen from him throughout the course of this tournament. So mixing it up there, yeah, he got rid of the Primarina, but he was still kind of a little bit behind the pace.
I mean, I want to address the lead that Santino has led out here. Such a great adjustment. You've got the Togekiss applying a lot of pressure to the Dragapult, and the Rillaboom applying so much pressure to the Primarina. And I think Santino really has a pick of the bunch here about who he wants to Dynamax. You know, Togekiss going for something like Max Starfall will be a lot of pressure to that Dragapult if Jiseok maybe wants to Dynamax the Dragapult and apply a lot of pressure. But actually, no offensive turns coming out from turn 1 here. Going to be the Protect on the Dragapult, and actually a double there from Jiseok, producing maybe the Fake Out coming out from the Rillaboom. You have to protect against it. Togekiss would be free otherwise to go for a lot of damage, but actually passive plays all round. There's going to be the Follow Me from that Togekiss as well, as Rillaboom tries to go for the U-turn, but thanks to all of the protects, is unable to leave the field safely.
Both trainers kind of scouting out each other a little bit here and just seeing what they can do. Just trying to, I don't think, make a mistake early on. You don't want to fall foul of something that's caused so many problems, and being defensive just makes so much sense from Jiseok there. You've got a Fake Out on the field, you've got the Yawn as well. Just buy a little time, see what's going to happen, and let it play out. So I like that play from Jiseok a lot. I think Santino definitely trying to reposition his board. I think the U-turn is a very clear indicator of that he's not happy with how this one goes. But Jiseok looks like he's going to be the first one to fire out the Dynamax here and just try and get himself in another really solid position. So it is the Dragapult once again. And the Dragapult, those max airstreams were actually rather problematic, I think, in game number 1. An undervalued piece of kind of play that worked out for him in the long run.
Yeah, Dynamax Dragapult so strong, and those max airstreams something that Rillaboom has to watch out for, but thankfully its partner Togekiss is going to be able to redirect those away with the Follow Me. Max airstream of course coming out. The other thing you have to worry about though is this Rillaboom against the Primarina, and whether it's going to stay on the field or maybe try and target down into the Primarina with a big grass type attack. Speeds, of course, going up on Jiseok's side. You know, Dragapult's already speedy, but you want to maybe try and put your Primarina in a great position as well. And it goes straight for the Dazzling Gleam, does so much damage thanks to that Life Orb against both of Santino's Pokemon, over 50% on the pair of them. And Rillaboom actually deciding, hey, I'm going to get out of here, I'm going to go right back into my Pokeball, goes for that U-turn thanks to no Protect, able to go for it this time. And it gives Santino the option to now switch up his ball position and bring that Urshifu back into the fray.
Curious that he U-turns there rather than a grass type move, as you mentioned. Maybe expecting Jiseok to be a little more defensive with the Primarina, maybe switch it around after what happened to it last game. So he kind of doesn't get the damage down that he wants. And that Togekiss, between the Dazzling Gleam and the Max Airstream, taking a lot of damage. That's something that can't be undervalued and can't be underrated. So it can only buy so much time with these kind of redirection turns, right? I mean, particularly if you're taking Dazzling Gleam on the side as well, you are going to fall kind of quickly to something like this Primarina. Togekiss, though, once again, Follow Meing while there's a Detect on the field. Definitely just trying to pull those max Airstreams away from the Detect, making sure that, obviously, Airstream would do damage through the Detect. So, yeah, you want to keep the Focus Sash in play as long as possible. That was revealed a little bit earlier. So, very smart, even though the turn is overly defensive, I think, from Santino. But it could pay off in the long run.
I mean, we saw the exact same turn last game where Primarina went for Dazzling Gleam, Max Airstream from the Dragapult, but like you mentioned, Urshifu had its Focus Sash broken by the Max Airstream. So the adjustment here by Santino, yes, you are protecting your Urshifu from that Dazzling Gleam. and you're sacking your Togekiss, but I think it's actually for high reward because you now get to bring in your Colossal. There's no redirection on Jiseok's team, and yes, he's very, very speedy, so you kind of need to get some speed on your side of the field, and Colossal is the Pokemon that has the ability to do that. Quite literally, it has Steam Engine ability, and the Urshifu can go for something like an Aqua Jet, proc that ability, proc the weakness policy, and then suddenly the board completely flips around to Santino's advantage.
If this is probably a really good turn for him to land that as well, because the max airstream boosts are putting Jiseok in a really good position. You can avoid all of those boosts by playing through the Aqua Jet. There's no redirection on the field right now in the form of Clefairy or a Togekiss or an Amoonguss or anything like that. So this is the turn where you need to switch things around very, very quickly, I think, if you're Santino, because you're already down a Pokemon. And we've seen just how potent this team can be with the Colossal. That said, attacking into protects is not what you want to do, and that's something that he looks to have done this turn. He's obviously racking up the damage. I mean, the Aqua Jet still hurts, even though it's Steam Engine and weakness policy, so it's going to add up, but he needs to start getting knockouts with this Colossal. This is what his team is built and focused around. These need to be important, and this Mercs Phantasm not going into the Colossal, very, very good for Santino. Buys him a lot of time, gives him a little bit of breathing room.
100%, and I mean that's something you touched on as well with the Aqua Jet doing so much damage. Colossal gonna be going for the max overgrowth into the Prima Arena that has quite wisely protected. Gonna be taking it down to over 50%, but the targeting there, if it maybe gone into something like the Dragapult, could have been able to deal out a lot more damage. But I feel like with a Pokemon like Urshifu that is a lot more offensive, you know, you really want to boost up its attack and have it a prominent threat on the field. Something like an Aqua Jet, particularly with the same type of attack bonus, is going to hurt. A lot of the time you see that Colossal synergy with a Pokemon like the Dragapult that, you know, isn't going to get any additional boost from using Surf and maybe isn't the most offensively trained. You know, you see it often with things like Light Screen and Ally Switch on it as well. So the damage is a lot less onto your Colossal.
Right, the Colossal being able to be kept safe is key here. Dragapult's out of its Dynamax though, so its offensive prowess is a little more limited. I say that as Dragon Dance lands a really good KO on this Urshifu, and this game is so much focus on Colossal right now.
Yeah, well, Colossal going to go for that G-Max Volcalyph. This time going to be able to connect into the Prima Arena and set those rocks out onto the field once again. And that residual damage is just going to chip away at Jiseok's team. I think, like you said, you know, the Dreepies there being able to pick up the KO with those Dragon Dance does just show that Dragapult is such a prominently offensive Pokemon in and out of Dynamax. It can still really cause a lot of havoc on the team. And Colossal, you know, thankfully having the benefits of that Grassy Terrain pushing it to above 50%, but it's only really been able to use 2 of its max moves, only really 1 when you think about it. The first one went through into the Protect. It's only got 1 more opportunity to deal out a lot of damage with this extra HP bulk, and once Dynamax turns it over, it's going to be in a really dangerous position. I think bringing in Rillaboom here now, we can get that immediate, you know, Grassy Glide off. That could be advantageous, but again, Clefairy's on the field, and it's a tricksy little Pokemon too.
Clefairy's going to have to do a lot, and we've seen it's got Protect. It can definitely buy time in that regard. So it looks like this one's going to be very, very close. What happens with this Colossal in this turn is key to the whole state of this game. If Colossal gets to attack and get a knockout, I think this game actually becomes pretty much dead even. I think if Colossal wastes its last turn of the Dynamax here and doesn't get either a knockout or adequate setup for the end of the game, it's certainly going to be different. Clefairy, though, no Protect. It's focused on keeping the Dragapult safe, which I think is important, but it is going to be eating a number of big attacks.
Yeah, Grassy Glide coming out and doing a huge amount of damage into that Clefairy. Dragapult going to go for that Phantom Force and disappear to reappear in the following turn, and leaving poor Clefairy to take this Max Flare from the Colossal. Going to be dealing a good amount of damage, enough actually to pick up that solid KO against Clefairy, and I think critically set up the Sun as well. You know, Santino got caught out in game 1 with the whole Solar Beam, having to take the 2 turns of charge, but with the Sun in effect, it can be a 1-turn move. And you know, even though he doesn't have to worry so much about some of the Pokemon on Jiseok's team, with that, it just still gives him the option.
That's pretty much what he needed, I think, in that turn, was to complete. He's gone through every single max move and is able to try and fight back. And now, as you've importantly mentioned, he has the Sun, which means it really comes down to one thing. Can this Dragapult get the knockout with Phantom Force? We knew that even after the Steam Engine boost, the Dragapult, because of those 2 max airstreams earlier in the game, is still moving first. So if the Colossal, after the earlier Max Phantasm, can take it, then he's going to be able to knock out this Urshifu, because he'll have access to the big attack. The Urshifu though, aquajetting doesn't even matter. Assuming this Phantom Force has gone that way, this game's gonna be close. There's also Grassy Glide. That's not gonna get the knockout, of course. Oh, don't forget we've got the Volcalith coming through. So the targeting on the Phantom Force so essential here.
Oh, gonna go down into that Rillaboom. So the Colossal actually able to hang on thanks to the sun. Gonna be able to go for the Heat Wave. It actually misses against one of the Pokemon. Is gonna be able to take that on the Dragapult, however. But like you mentioned, the rocks, that's gonna be able to pick up the KO against the Urshifu anyway.
Oh, I think of the Phantom Force, so I didn't think, with the sun up, Aquajet was going to be able to get there. And this Colossal hanging on is, I can't understate how huge that one is. The fact that it's able to deal with the Urshifu, it didn't actually fire back with the Solar Beam that we were talking about. The Heat Wave, a really smart play there by Santino, knowing the ins and outs of this team. Actually didn't matter that it missed the Urshifu. It hit the Dragapult, it brought the Dragapult very, very low. And honestly, the Dragapult to deal, Dragon Darts is an option here. But, Jiseok just says, no, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to try and get into that end game. Let's go to game 3. So, what an end game with that Aquajet not getting there. And kind of, Colossal was easily taken out by a water type move in the previous game. But the sun from the Max Flare allowed Santino to level up this set 1-1. There's a whole lot to process in what was going on at the end of that set, but, Jiseok threw in the towel there, knew that if there was a single protect, the Volcalith rocks would just get him in the end. So, really tough, and as long as the Rillaboom protects, hey, Rillaboom protects his turn, doesn't get caught by Dragon Darts, and then can just get you with Grassy Glide at some point. There was too much going on, and it's 1-1 in our winners finals. That was a crazy endgame, I'm sorry. It was a lot.
Oh, 100%. It was so explosive towards the end and such clutch survivals as well, particularly on that Colossal. And I think that was the thing that really shocked me with that game, because game 1 Colossal, like you said, got KO'd so easily by the Aquajet. So it comes into game 2 and sort of faces down a similar scenario and goes, look what you made me do. I'm going to set up that Max Flare. I'm going to get the sun. So that your Aquajet is not going to be able to pick up the KO. So he learned from game 1, was able to adjust and storm through into a game 3, like winners finals, go into a game 3. That's the kind of action we want to see, and I don't want to wait any longer. Let's jump right into it and see who's going to be advancing into the grand finals and who's going to be dropping down into the losers bracket. This is so intense here, Adam. I'm so looking forward to seeing how they're going to be able to adjust and whether Colossal is going to be able to throw out any more surprises. Primarina and Dragapult coming out for Jiseok, and on Santino's side, there is the Rillaboom and the Togekiss once again.
Yeah, the lead from game 2, probably feeling a lot better. I think for both trainers, even though Jiseok lost it, he probably feels fine playing into this lead. Maybe not going as defensive on this turn, making sure that he's able to do the best job he can with it. And I like this a lot more from Santino, just playing a little more aggressively with that Rillaboom. He spent a lot of time working through that Primarina last time. He has an answer to it, so why not use it, right? Like, why not try and get that knockout as early as possible? It does look like Jiseok just sticking to what got him through game 1 and got him super close in game number 2. Just saying, all right, well, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to get my Airstream up and make my Dragapult a threat. Those 2 max Airstream boosts from early in the game were key to keeping him in it against that Steam Engine later on.
Yeah, Dragapult was really a key piece for Jiseok there, and it's good to see him Dynamax it up again. Togekiss gonna go for that Follow Me, just protect the Rillaboom in the face of that Max Airstream. Rillaboom, however, gonna go for the Grassy Glide, so not trying to U-turn out in this particular game, but gonna connect onto the Protect of the Primarina, as Dragapult actually goes for the Max Phantasm, going straight down into Togekiss, does just over 50%, but I think critically just trying to lower those defense stats as well, so a follow-up move from the Dragapult is going to be dealing even more damage. And ultimately, when you're facing down against Rillaboom and Togekiss and you're a Dragapult, you don't need the speed right away. You're already the fastest thing on the field. Maybe try and inflict a penalty against a Nulla stat, and then you can always max Airstream after the defense has been dropped.
So what I actually kind of like that this Togekiss is doing is basically, I don't want to say wasting, I think that's unfair, but buying time while this Dragapult is on the field, right? So the Dragapult is spending so long attacking and Follow Me's. Yeah, it's getting some really cool boosts down, it's doing really well, but it's actually just, that's now 2 turns of this Dragapult's Dynamax where it's not able to land the attacks that it wants to. I love the pressure as well that's been brought here, and my word, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, poor Clefairy jumping into the action, but having to take a heavy hit for its efforts. Togekiss as well going to be KO'd as Clefairy gets the speed boost from that Max Airstream as well as Dragapult. But Santino will be losing the Togekiss once again pretty early on. It really is kind of self-sacrificing itself here for that Rillaboom. And Dragapult, once again, looking really strong. It hasn't really had any damage inflicted on it at all. And now that it's got the max airstream up as well, it's going to be really fast. It doesn't worry about taking a grassy glide. And Fairy's always there as well to use Follow Me and try and draw that away. And Colossal now going to join the fray, but Colossal is not next to one of the Pokemon that can activate all of its boosts.
Nope, it's in a precarious position right now where it's not going to have its weakness policy, it's not going to have its steam engine, and he just has to be, I think, smart about how he plays this turn. This is the last turn as well of the Dynamax from Dragapult, so there's a lot of damage coming down, and he's got a couple of nice boosts. I like the Rillaboom leaving the field here. I think getting rid of that defense drop from the earlier Max Phantasm, very helpful, and there's only so much you can do against the potential Max Airstream. So without the redirection, Rillaboom leaves. It does set up quite nicely for a potential follow-up turn, obviously, with the Urshifu. But Colossal's not even waiting for Urshifu to boost it. It's saying, you know what, I want to start getting my damage back down now, even before Steam Engine weakness policy has gone up.
I like this play by Santino, though, because you're bringing in the Urshifu, and Clefairy's not really a powerhouse you have to worry about, so you're not going to worry about your Focus Sash being broken and KO'd, even if Dragapult does target down into that slot, which it does. You know, that's not even going to take it down to its Focus Sash, but Urshifu's now critically on the field to Aqua Jet on the next turn. But if you're Santino, you need to try and find a way to get rid of that Clefairy so it can't just follow me away. So going for the G-Max Volcalith is a good idea to target down, but of course that little Clefairy did actually protect, so this won't be getting the KO, and now Santino's in that awkward position going into this next turn where Clefairy's on the field. It can cause a lot of problems for his strategy.
Yeah, Clefairy's going to be able to slow down that potential Steam Engine weakness policy really effectively, and a lot going on. I mean, obviously Santino knows its moveset, its open team sheet, so that's kind of key, and this Clefairy actually taking a good chunk of damage from the Volcalith rocks from a little bit earlier. Importantly though, Dragapult's Dynamax is over. It only got one speed boost this time from the Airstreams. Don't forget in Game 2 it had 2. So it was able to outspeed the Colossal even after Steam Engine. And I'd be curious to know if one gives you the numbers to get there. It's going to be really close. Urshifu, though, playing it safe, just saying, you know what, still a little worried about the Clefairy. As Clefairy does follow me, definitely trying to redirect those Aqua Jets. And we'll see, everything once again relies on this Colossal endgame.
Yeah, I really like this play here by Santino, knowing that Clefairy can just follow me away in Aqua Jet, and you don't want to have your Urshifu going down to anything, and the Detect really does preserve it going into the next turn because, you know, like you said, there's no more Dynamax on Jiseok's team. There's no way for him to break through the Protect and KO that Urshifu, but Santino has a way to KO that Clefairy with that Max Flare. Going to be bringing the Sun as well, setting up for that endgame against the Water-type Pokemon on Jiseok's team, can go for those powerful Solar Beams or Max Overgrowths if he decides to bring one of them in now. But Urshifu's sitting in a position where it can now go for that Aqua Jet, and Colossal's going to be in a phenomenal position to start picking up some KOs. One thing you've got to worry about, though, is, of course, the damage that Aqua Jet can do to the Colossal, which is why setting the Sun up is a really great move for Santino. You're going to reduce that damage.
If there's 2 Aqua Jets on the field here, things can get really interesting. It looks like the Urshifu will be landing once again, and this is actually a really tough decision for Jiseok to make, right? If he doesn't attack the Colossal, then Santino can set it up, right? He can set up the Steam Engine weakness policy, and that, you know, could just win him the game. So if he does that and he's the second Aqua Jet, as you mentioned, it's already taken a good amount of damage. It's going to be really close. But you don't want to be the one to set up the Steam Engine weakness policy looking for that knockout as the second Aqua Jet if the first Aqua Jet doesn't come through. So I'll be curious to see how this I'm a little tense for both players.
Yeah, this is definitely a critical turn in the game. Urshifu going to go for the close combat into the opposing Urshifu, while Dragapult does just go full Protect. So plays it safe for this particular turn, but I want to know what the Urshifu is going to do on Jiseok's team. It's going to be going for those Surging Strikes, and I much prefer this play to the Aqua Jet, but it's only going to work if you can pick up the actual KO against it. If you leave this Colossal on the field at the end of this, you're going to be in trouble.
It's so close. I think it might get it. Those critical hits coming through. I didn't figure it out, but yeah, there's the knockout. So I prefer that play. The first one looked like it did a little less damage, and I was getting a bit worried there.
Yeah.
But Surging Strike's very wise. That said, I mean, don't forget, you've now got a Dragapult kind of taking this damage from the Volcalith rocks. And then you got the Rillaboom to come in, which is interesting. I mean, Rillaboom could just be able to kind of clean this one up, right? And just say, well, I've got Grassy Glide. just going to start Grassy Glide and stuff and taking knockouts that way. These Volcanic rocks really, really hurt him. The grassy terrain does not make up for the damage that they do. And it's so essentially, the grass disappears just as Santino brings Rillaboom back in. That's so well timed.
Oh, yeah, that is perfect timing for Santino. Grassy terrain goes away, but hey, let's bring it back with the Rillaboom. And as you said, Rillaboom's now in a prime position to go for those grassy glides. And the Pokemon that Jiseok's got, you know, the Urshifu and the Primarina are not going to appreciate that at all, particularly with the depleted health of that Urshifu. Dragon Ball, however, might be in a slightly better position to be taking that damage, but with the choice band on that Rillaboom, it's still going to really pack a punch, particularly as there's no Intimidate, there's no stats dropped here, grassy terrain's in effect. Is looking to be so strong, and it's a full health Rillaboom. Dragapult having that flying type move, you know, it's great when it's in the Dynamax, it can execute it straight away. But something like a Fly, which is the 2-charge move, can put it in a precarious position where its partner Pokemon is still going to be a target. Aqua Jet coming out into Santino's Urshifu, and you can see Grassy Glide does so much, even though it's not very effective with a critical hit. Doesn't quite pick up the KO though, so Dragapult able to go for this Dragon Dart. Gonna connect into the Rillaboom, do a little bit of damage, but it's really not enough to alleviate it as a threat. But Urshifu, however, has been KO'd, and Santino now has this Rillaboom here on the field. Dragapult's being KO'd by the rock set up by Colossal previously. And facing down against 2 Water-type Pokemon locked into Grassy Glide, it looks really good here for the Rillaboom.
Yeah, Rillaboom's got to be feeling pretty peachy about its situation. It's got the terrain to recover a little bit, but that critical hit, the perfect time for Santino. Yes, Grassy Glide is not very effective, but it does enough damage to mean that the last turn of those Volcalith rocks is going to be enough for the knockout. Maybe a little bit of getting what he needs and the right turn there, but that's sometimes just how it goes, and that is putting him in such a good position. As you mentioned, 2 water types versus a choice band, Grassy Glide, Rillaboom. Yeah, he's feeling pretty good with obviously grassy terrain, so the damage is crazy as well. Not only priority, you know, just making sure he targets correctly, making sure he never attacks into a protect or detect is going to be key here. But I'd say even though he's down a couple Pokemon, there's not much for at least a few turns until this grassy terrain ends that can stop this Rillaboom. We see him back and forth on where he's going to target as well, and if he makes the right calls, he's going to be punching a ticket to Grand Finals. A lot is on Jiseok to play the mind game and beat him there. No protects on this turn though.
Ooh, yeah, gonna go straight into that Urshifu, and like you said, it's kind of that 50-50 because both of Jiseok's Pokemon can protect, and if you keep calling the wrong one, because you can only target one Pokemon, you're gonna be in trouble. Blizzard comes out from the Primarina but avoids the Rillaboom, and that really was Jiseok's only way to come back into it. Maybe connecting a Blizzard, maybe getting a freeze on that Rillaboom, and then Primarina could just try chipping away at it, but to no avail. The Rillaboom is gonna be able to just click that Grassy Glide. Santino doesn't have to roll a dice here to pick its target. There's only the Primarina left on the field, and depending on how much damage this is going to be dealing, we don't even know. We don't even get to see the Oko on there. Santino advances. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Jiseok just throws in the towel after that Blizzard miss. A fantastic game by him, but unfortunately, he's going to be bouncing down to the losers bracket. And our first grand finalist here in the Pokemon Players Cup is Santino Tarquinio, piloting his Colossal team, mixing it up, playing a little bit differently to some of the games we've seen previously from him, but executing it perfectly. He even won that last game without getting the Steam Engine weakness policy boost that has been so essential to his success. So a fantastic game from Santino there, and breathing a sigh of relief as the end game just works out so perfectly for him.
It certainly did, and it really was a masterclass in how to pilot Colossal. Like you said, in that Game 3, he didn't even get the boosts up, and in Game 2 as well, it was quite a late game situation. So it kind of goes to show that Colossal is more versatile. Like, it comes down to kind of the Pokemon trainer synergy. Like, it can be a really versatile Pokemon. I think a lot of people think it only really has one mode and you just boost it up and then big damage. But actually, Santino was able to show that you can utilize it to do other things that are great in the team. Setting up the rocks, setting up the sun as well. It all worked perfectly for him. And I've got to credit that Rillaboom as well, because it applied a lot of pressure to the threats that Colossal faced.
Yeah, the 2 water types that Jiseok was insistent on bringing every game, rightly so, because we saw it knock out the Colossal a couple of times, keeping that around at the end, and that huge turn towards the end of Game 3 where, there is going to be, Santino's kind of the fortunate son in this one, where he manages to land that critical hit Grassy Glide, does put things in range of that last turn of the Volcalith rocks, and Yeah, it's just so huge. But he put himself in the position to do that, and the damage coming down from the choice band Rillaboom was so potent towards the end, and I like that in Game 3 he preserved that. So moving on to the Grand Finals is a huge achievement. But there's more Pokemon action, Lou. Let's just keep the ball rolling. There's a whole lot of energy going on. Jiseok's bouncing down into the losers finals, and that's what we're going to be picking up with right now. We see his run's been so good through the winners bracket. He's the last person to drop in to the bracket on the losers side. He's going to be trying to end the Cinderella story of Nico Davide Cognetta. Look at the difference in these stories. We've had Nico all the way through the bracket. He went into losers round 1, and he's here in the losers finals. He's against Jiseok, who just dropped into this bracket from the winners side. So this is either going to be the end of a Cinderella story for Nico Davide Cognetta, or Jiseok's immediate redemption from dropping out of that bracket.
I mean, both of these players coming into this are going to have phenomenal mindsets behind them. Nico, like you say, is running on all of this momentum at the moment, dropping into losers bracket and then winning and winning and winning. And he's got to be able to taste it right now. He has fought so hard to go through losers. He just wants to keep winning. You don't want it to be all in vain, all of that effort, and sort of fall at the last couple of hurdles. Whereas Jiseok has been so consistently strong, running through that winners bracket, and now has just slipped up a little bit. But that's the joy of kind of a double elimination bracket. You're allowed one loss. That's totally fine. There is a second one that can give you that arc of redemption, and Jiseok's going to be hungry for that. He was so close to entering that grand finals. He can practically taste it, and that's where he now needs to be able to refocus and regroup and go into this next match and try and win out. So let's just have a little recap on Jiseok and some of his previous achievements. Being the career national champion in 2016 is a really, really high achievement. And then getting top 16 in 2017, again, just shows that he's got this kind of level of consistency, but he wants to be able to add Players' Cup champion to that roster as well.
Oh, most definitely. And looking at the matchup as we had them side by side, I actually think this Clefairy, the Pokemon that I know we talked about a little bit earlier on, and the way that his teams kind of come together around that Clefairy. He dropped Porygon Z, which I know was disappointing to you, but the Clefairy has been so focal here, and looking over at Nico's team, I think it's going to cause problems. Of course, we've seen this absolutely wonderful run down in the losers bracket from Nico Davide Cognetta. Those fantastic finalists and top 8 appearances at the international championships. The only one missing is North America, but it's a tough tournament there. And this team has a couple things I think are really cool. I do think the Terrakion may struggle a little bit in this matchup. I think the Terrakion is going to be an interesting one to try and execute. And of course, we've talked about it before, it's so hard to run beat-up justified boosts when there's a redirector in there. So I think that Clefairy is key for stopping that. And also, I just don't see many options that can easily handle the Clefairy and easily say, well, I just have an easy one-hit knockout on you, which, yes, is a huge ask against Clefairy because of the EVLI and trying to work through that all. But it's going to be a close game, and it's either going to be immediate redemption or the final conclusion, or not the final, but one of the last notes in a potential Cinderella story. So all I want to do is keep the ball rolling and get on into this game.
Exactly, let's jump right into it. And I want to see how Jiseok is going to be able to adapt, coming off that loss, coming into this match, and facing down against this classic combination of Nico, that Terrakion and Dragapult. We always love to see it. It's definitely become a firm favourite of mine now, and I can't wait to try out this team myself. But first of all, we've got to see how Jiseok faces down against it with that Clefairy and Primarina. I think this is a great lead from him. You've got the redirection, so you don't have to worry about beat up.
You don't, and this is something that's kind of interesting, and obviously we've had the privilege of being able to see Nico Davide's choices in some of the other matches, so he's been against double fairy leads before in this tournament, right? He knows what he's doing, and he knows his way around it, so he's able to kind of bounce back from it. That said, I mean, Jiseok's lead is certainly a little more defensive, but if he can get through the next couple turns dealing with this Terrakion, it could be interesting. Of course, this plays a crazy big mind game if you're the player holding on to beat up. And we've seen trainers lose it and win it. You really do. If you've got beat up as an essential part of your strategy, you really do become the gambler. You have to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. If you choose beat up, it's got to land on your Pokemon, not the Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field.
Exactly, we saw it yesterday with that Amoonguss playing some mind games on the field. And this time it's Clefairy's moment, going for that follow me. So we'll be directing away any beat up if that's what Nico has opted to go for. It is indeed going to be the beat up from that Dragapult. So trying to play it risky, trying to get that boost up as much as possible. But sadly, Clefairy's going to be able to take this and take it really well, despite even the little cheeky critical hits. So no boosts coming out for that Terrakion in this turn. But it's still going to be in a good position if he's able to get rid of this Clefairy. Max Rockfall going to follow out as well. Going to target down into that follow me from the Clefairy. And not enough to pick up a KO critically though. Of course, the weather will now change and there'll be a little bit of sand chip at the end of that. But Clefairy able to hang on. And I didn't quite catch the HP, but I feel like at the end of the turn, Clefairy's still going to be hanging around here. As Primarina goes for that Max Starfall, next onto the Dragapult and removes it from the field. So if you're Jiseok, you now know there is no worries for you about beat up.
Yeah, that strategy is absolutely null and void. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Lou, the technical term, if you're the beat-up player in that instance, is you hate to see it. When Follow Me does come out, you try and call their bluff, and you go, well, I don't think you're going to do it because it's way too obvious. You're going to do something else. But when you land that beat-up into the... I mean, I think the most galling thing is a number of the redirect uses a fairy type, so you don't even do good damage with it. But not a great opening turn there for Nico. Doesn't get a knockout. Certainly an interesting one. That said, I mean, Rillaboom's coming in. Can definitely apply pressure down with Grassy Glide and maybe being able to mix that up. Immediately switching things over from the Misty Terrain that Max Starfall bought. But that really gives him such a limited window on when he can Grassy Glide, right? Because he has to Grassy Glide before this Primarina lands another Max Starfall. And with a Terrakion on the field, there's not much reason not to. So certainly going to be a tough one, I think, for Nico to work through. But Rillaboom helps out with priority and, of course, against the Primarina. So buying a little bit of time, just trying to see what's going on, I think.
Yeah, just going for a Protect here on the Rillaboom as Clefairy goes for a Nulla Follow Me. Of course, Clefairy with the Sand is going to be going down at the end of this turn if Primarina doesn't change up the weather. Terrakion gonna go for that Max Knuckle. Doesn't worry about it being a Fairy type. I know we said you don't want to target down into not very effective moves, but with 7 HP, Terrakion doesn't mind that and critically gets the attack boost on not only itself, but also the Rillaboom that's just come into the fray, and that's something Primarina really has to be careful about. Jiseok going to go for that Max Geyser with the Primarina. Quite wise here, changing up the weather. You want to be removing any potential boost there to the Terrakion and hitting it for some really, really good damage. Of course, breaking that Focus Sash as well. So that's completely null and void. And Primarina sitting actually in a really strong position, except for that Rillaboom. If you're Jiseok, you're going to have to really worry about... You need to be able to bring something in that's going to apply pressure to that Rillaboom.
Yeah, I actually find this one kind of fascinating that he's happy to leave the Grassy Terrain up. And this play actually could be a long kind of term thought from Nico. So what he's done here is he's made sure he gets the Max Knuckle boost. Yeah, he gets maybe thinking the Ferrothorn was going to come in. But anyway, he gets the knockout on Clefairy. And importantly, he gets that boost. So this Grassy Glide could be absolutely huge. Taking away the sand from the Terrakion and its special defense boost is nice, right? Don't get me wrong, it's nice. But the Grassy Terrain's still in play, which against both these Pokemon, the Primarina and the Urshifu, certainly an interesting one. Be curious to see if he can capitalize on it. The Aqua Jet blocked there, very wise, with the Max Guard, and this Rillaboom is about to become a big old problem, as that Max Knuckle boost and the Choice Band, I don't know if it's Choice Band, it's not, this one's different, but that's a Primarina knocked out before it gets another Max move off. So actually, even though the Terrakion had a bad start, that's going to be the Dynamax that remained on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you said that Rillaboom was going to be a problem. It certainly was. And particularly if you're Jiseok and you have the Rapid Strike variant of Urshifu, that's, again, a Pokemon that does not want to be facing down against a Rillaboom. And I think you made an interesting point where you said that he didn't change the terrain when he had the option to and try and remove that Grassy Glide priority. And it's definitely going to be working against him now with Rillaboom being able to be guaranteed to have priority and get the boost from the Grassy Terrain against the Pokemon that Jiseok's got. Yes, he's got the Ferrothorn, which Rillaboom isn't going to worry about too much, but unless the Ferrothorn can do something back to the Rillaboom, Jiseok's still in a disadvantage.
So I actually think that I understand why you change the weather. You want to be able to set up for something like this Urshifu to be able to do huge damage with Aqua Jet, right? That makes so much sense to me. But giving up the Grassy Glide is a tough one to or I say giving up the grassy glide, giving up the terrain to allow grassy glide to remain priority is certainly a tough one here, and that is going to bring us to a very, very close end game. The Terrakion doesn't leave the field, just lets itself get Aquajet, so that's interesting. I think that is a really key answer to this this Ferrothorn, but Rillaboom just looks like it's going to be able to start fighting back, bringing things down to its Focus Sash. Does make for an interesting endgame though, as yeah, this Ferrothorn setting up is going to be quite nasty.
Yeah, Ferrothorn being untouched in that particular turn does get that defense boost up +2. That's something that the Rillaboom is going to be a little bit concerned about. Of course, Rillaboom can pick up a KO against that Urshifu on the next turn as long as it doesn't detect. And that could be an interesting play here for Jiseok. If he wants to play a little bit defensively with the Urshifu, maybe try and boost up his Ferrothorn another turn. I mean, there's an Incineroar now on the field. You want to get your defense up and you want to utilize the rain as much as possible to apply pressure to that Incineroar and stop it from dealing as much damage to your Ferrothorn as it wants to.
And what's interesting here is something we've seen a little bit earlier on as well, is that decision making from players. So the Iron Defense, of course, does help in large against the Incineroar, but it doesn't help against Burning Jealousy because you're only boosting your defense, and Burning Jealousy is a special attack. So this could be another one of those games, we saw it a little earlier, where as long as the rain runs out, which has been on the field for a little while now, you know, maybe you could land the Burning Jealousy. Of course, the Incineroar has access to Fake Out here, which could buy a turn. You do have to be careful. You need the rain to run out so you can, you know, deal with the Aqua Jet. But the Incineroar is going to be able to buy a lot of time against this Urshifu, I think. And even though, I mean, there's limited offensive options from both sides, and Urshifu probably the most offensive, going to be absolutely key here. So this endgame just gets closer and closer. Incineroar doesn't fall for it, doesn't detect, or doesn't land a Fake Out into the detect, and I think that's actually pretty big.
Yeah, I like this Detecto from the Urshifu. Like you said, burns out the Fake Out here and can apply still a lot of pressure to that Incineroar going forward. You know, Urshifu, quite a nice speedy Pokemon out here on the field. And that's something that, if you're Jiseok, you need to be able to get rid of to preserve your Ferrothorn a little bit more. Both players down to their last 2 remaining Pokemon. And once again, you see that triangle of Fire, Water, Grass coming into effect. And I think it's going to come down to which player is going to be able to knock that piece of the triangle out as a threat for its other side that's going to be able to take this game 1.
Yeah, I mean, everything going into this Incineroar, and this Incineroar definitely being asked questions now on how much it can do. I think the Aqua Jet should probably be enough to deal with it in the rain, but it'd be close. It's definitely not the easiest one, as we've seen before. So a lot riding on dealing with this Incineroar right now, and something that I think Jiseok might have found the way there. That Detect was really, really big for him not getting knocked out. I think that was key, and obviously the Body Press set, really essential. There's no way to protect the Incineroar, so yeah, it's going to be bought exceptionally low. But Grassy Glide deals with the Urshifu, and now it's up to the Burning Jealousy, I think, to try and get there. We'll see. Oh, he's going with Flare Blitz, so he's not caring about the Iron Defense.
Yeah, going straight for the Flare Blitz here. Also going to take a little bit in recoil and from the Iron Barbs as well. So Incineroar actually putting itself in range to eat its berry, and that could be really helpful for Incineroar, reboosting itself up thanks to its Citrus Berry, getting itself a little bit of HP, but of course taking that Flare Blitz recoil as well. Ferrothorn, however, going to be able to go for that Body Press, targeting down into the Incineroar, and is able to pick up the KO. Of course, Body Press coming off the defense stat, not the attack stat, so being able to apply so much pressure and getting rid of that threat. Just as the rain goes away as well. You know, I've got rid of the Incineroar. I don't need the rain anymore. Perfect timing for Jiseok.
Yeah, so if, and it was a big if that was able to maybe kind of stall out a turn, you know, Incineroar, though, doesn't have access to Protect in so many cases. It's not a move people are bringing on it. He just needed one more turn, right? He needed one more turn to let the rain expire. Then he would have been able to handle the Aqua Jet a lot better, and maybe it would have been a bit closer, but then he would have been able to land the Flare Blitz without the rain as well, and that would have been key. So this one's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a slow one. Rillaboom does only have high horsepower, which isn't the premium move when it comes to dealing with this Ferrothorn. And honestly, as long as this Ferrothorn can weave in Body Presses, I think it's going to be in a position to try and deal with it, deal with this Rillaboom. So yeah, it's going to be a really close one here. If that Incineroar had one more turn, I think it would have got there and the rain wasn't in play, but it just wasn't to be in this instance.
I fully agree. Rillaboom going for those high horsepowers, particularly with the defense boost that the Ferrothorn has got up, is just not going to be able to deal nearly enough damage. And that Ferrothorn with the Body Press is going to be able to chip away at Rillaboom. So I think if you're these players, I mean, you can see that Jiseok's locked in, Nico's clearly taking his time, and we've seen that a few times before where Nico knows that he's in a losing endgame position. He's got to start thinking about the next game. So if you're Nico right now, you're going to have to think about how to adjust. And I think turn 1 in this game, going for that beat up and having it drawn away by the Clefairy, definitely put him on the back foot. So he has to be able to adjust going into game 2, and whether he's going to keep that beat up strategy, maybe try and play it boldly or complete switch of his leads, is going to be critical for him to stay in this competition. Ferrothorn going for the body press, and you can see so much damage coming out from here. I think the writing's on the wall here for this Rillaboom, and looks like Jiseok's going to be able to take game 1 in a matter of turns.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no way out for this Rillaboom. That Incineroar was the win condition, and very smartly a couple turns ago, Jiseok did just double target it with body press and Aqua Jet. So this game looks to be done. I mean, Jiseok's slow playing it a little bit as well, getting his time to think about the rest of the matchup. As the battle is cancelled, Nico just saying, yeah, you're going to body press me at some point in the future. I've collected my thoughts about a potential game 2 and game 3 play. So let's move on and let's get going into game number 2. Fantastic play, a lot going on there, but a lot riding on a Rillaboom that was struggling a little bit, I think, to deal the damage.
I mean, Rillaboom came in and applied a lot of pressure because there's 2 water types on Jiseok's team. So being able to have your Rillaboom in a position to pick up some really solid KOs, and we saw it pick up that really, really strong KO against the Primarina, does show that it has so much potential in this matchup. But if it's unsupported by a Pokemon like the Incineroar, if it loses that key partner that it needs in that triangle, it's going to be in a really problematic situation. And I mean, I talk about the Fire, Water, Grass triangle, but it's actually a Grass type versus a Grass type, and it is just that Ferrothorn that can get its defense boost up. So if you're Nico, you need to avoid that going into game 2.
Ferrothorn was key. I think there was like kind of 3 big turning points to me, and that was, I mean, number 1 was the Clefairy being so disruptive. That was huge. At the end, we had that really kind of tough situation where we see that Rillabooms can't beat Ferrothorns, and I think that's why Ferrothorn has taken an uptick. And that middle of the game, kind of where, you know, Urshifu was just able to put down a lot of pressure with Aqua Jet. So moving into game 2, Nico's going to have to make a bunch of changes, I think, to avoid a number of mistakes. His tried and trusted Dragapult Terrakion just didn't work in the last game, and yeah, he's gonna be up against it. It's facing down against Dragapult Clefairy again, or Clefairy again, but Dragapult as the change this time, and it's a tough one for Nico to bounce back because this Clefairy just causes so many issues.
I mean, you say that the Terrakion Dragapult is tried and tested, but it is not pulling its weight in this particular matchup at the moment, particularly against that pesky little Clefairy. And if you're Nico, you're going to have to be aware of that follow me. It caught you out in game 1, and you're 1 game down here in this competition. You cannot afford to lose another one. So are you going to risk it? Are you going to try and go for that beat up? Or are you maybe trying to utilize this first turn to deal out some really big damage? You could always try and Dynamax up maybe your Dragapult and apply some pressure from there. Going for those Max Phantasm or Rock Slide that we saw him do previously, but we'll have to see. First of all, it's going to be the Dynamax Dragapult out there for Jiseok, which I think is a really wise choice, changing up from that Primarina. Doesn't have to worry so much about the Rillaboom, but no Dynamax from Nico's side of the field. Clefairy, of course, going for that follow me quite wisely in case beat up was in play, as Dragapult does indeed go for that Phantom Force. So Dragapult hiding and maybe going to reappear later on, and most critically avoiding the max Wormwind there as Terrakion goes for the Rock Slide. Gets decent damage on the Clefairy with a critical hit. That's certainly going to help him out later on, but I think the critical thing there was Dragapult managed to get away unscathed.
That's a much better turn for Nico, right? That's a turn that he wants to be able to play through and kind of do things a little bit better. That said, the follow me is going to keep coming through, so it's just going to kind of keep distracting from any huge hits. The Phantom Force, a little underwhelming, not getting a knockout, but the Clefairy's probably in range for another Rock Slide, so plenty of kind of options here. This Dragapult, though, will land its Max Wormwind this turn.
Yeah, connecting onto that Dragapult and easily picking up the KO, and I think critically as well, lowering the attack stat of that Terrakion, so the Rock Slide not going to be dealing as much damage, but due to the Phantom Force going to the Clefairy, it might still be able to pick up the KO and remove that Pokemon from the field. Actually not, Clefairy able to hang on, so the Max Wormwood really coming in and paying off so well for Jiseok, and Nico now with that Terrakion on the field, and we've seen it time and time before. It can be amazing when it's boosted up, you know, with the Justified, that's fantastic, but even at -1, it's really underwhelming with the damage that it can deal, and I think bringing in Incineroar here is great. You can apply that Intimidate to nothing, but mainly it's that Fake Out. You know, Clefairy doesn't worry about Intimidate, Clear Body doesn't worry, but I think the Fake Out and allowing your Terrakion the opportunity to switch out could be really good here for Nico.
It's certainly not the worst situation for him, but I still think he's really behind the pace. This Clefairy has been on the field for 2 turns now, hasn't been knocked out, even though it's taken a bunch of attacks. So it's in a good position, and while it's been drawing attention to itself with the follow me, this Dynamax Dragapult over on Jiseok's side of the field has just been landing Max Whirlwind upon Max Whirlwind and lowering the attack, so this Terrakion is not scary at all right now and is probably going to be doing less and less damage, probably even less after this turn. There's been no Dynamax from Nico's side of the field either, so he's certainly kind of playing it smart. And yeah, I like this. Getting the defense down could be interesting for future reference, but yeah, this Terrakion is in danger.
It certainly is, and I like Clefairy as well going for the Helping Hand, knowing it's probably not going to survive out the turn, but Helping Hand just there to give Dragapult the best opportunity. Ooh, Clefairy actually missing the Rock Slide there. Dragapult obviously going to be taking a bit of chip, and Incineroar actually going for the Parting Shot means Clefairy is still going to hang around. That Rock Slide miss was critical for Nico.
No, the Incineroar tried to Parting Shot the Dragapult, but it has the Clear Body and it just doesn't operate. So that's a really, I mean, there's a lot of things that go badly for Nico in that turn.
Yeah,
not getting the knockout on Clefairy with the Rock Slide is an issue, to put it politely, and not getting that reposition that you were probably looking for with the Incineroar, also a massive problem. I think expecting a potential switch there. That's the only explanation, is you're expecting the switch, and now this Clefairy Dragapult could just kind of tear through Nico's team with Helping Hand Dragon Darts going absolutely all the way through. I mean, look at the damage from a spread move, which is going to be a problem.
Well, Burning Jealousy going to come out and finally remove that Clefairy from the field, but I think you're right here. Jiseok's in just such a dominating position, constantly stopping Nico from being able to go for the moves that he wants to, and some of that's on the calls that Nico's making as well, just not working out for him, and a little bit of bad luck with the Rock Slide miss as well. But that Clefairy's actually been able to stay on that field for several turns, has caused so much disruption, and actually being KO'd now is a great position for him, because he can bring in a Pokemon from the back and apply pressure to try and pick up a KO against that Incineroar, which we know was one of the win cons for Nico in the previous game. Rillaboom, though, being on the field, again, that's a Pokemon that can apply great pressure to the Urshifu, not so much the Dragapult, and Dragapult's in a position where it can maybe go for that Phantom Force, disappear, and protect itself in this turn.
Well, what I actually like as well is the Urshifu's in and playing quite aggressively in the face of a Grassy Glide Rillaboom, but you know you have your Focus Sash, you at least got that turn, and I think that's kind of expert play. There's the fake out towards, not even gonna work because it's not the first turn it's been on the field, and you know, the Dragon Darts hitting here, absolutely huge. Yes, Incineroar's going to be able to eat its berry, but I think this one's going to be a tough turn for Incineroar.
Oh, 100%, particularly with these Surging Strikes coming out, going to connect right in. We'll take 2 to pick up the KO, but I think that poor Incineroar is having a really, really rough game too. The Parting Shot not going off because it went into the Dragapult, the Fake Out not working because it doesn't work on the second turn of a move. So I'm not too sure what's going on with the Incineroar, but it's just very unfortunate here for Nico. Of course, the Rillaboom, though, going to be able to connect its high horsepower, deal some damage to that Dragapult, but with the Terrakion coming back into the fray, something like that Urshifu is still going to be able to apply so much pressure, particularly with like the multi-use move, the Surging Strikes. It's not even going to be, it's just going to be able to go through Terrakion. Unseen Fist doesn't even worry about any protects. Focus Dash is already down on the Terrakion. I thought actually it might still have had it, and Surging Strikes would have been able to pick up the KOs, and it just looks like Jiseok's in such a phenomenal position here.
Yeah, I mean, this game's really been a bit of a masterclass in how Jiseok's team operates. He's had some good turns, you know, the Rock Slide missing on Clefairy and stuff like that. Certainly helps him out. But overall, I mean, this Dragapult's been sat on the field all game. It's gone through 3 Dynamax turns. It's been able to try its best, you know, at getting moves landed. It did miss one. But right now, I mean, it looks like as well, this Dragon Darts is now going to double target because of the Aqua Jet. And the Rillaboom, yeah, it's got its attack boosted by the Helping Hand. It's still going to struggle a little bit here. Dragapult does get knocked out, though. But there's one more Pokemon left for Jiseok, and that is probably not going to be the one you want to see if you're Nico trying to keep your run alive here.
Exactly, that Ferrothorn that gave him so much trouble in Game 1 is back out in the action, and Rillaboom really doesn't have the utility to be able to pick up a KO against it. Yes, you KO'd the Dragapult, and that's always useful, but there's an Urshifu still on the field with the Focus Sash, and I think that makes sense from his targeting, because you could try and, you couldn't even KO the Urshifu with one move there from the Rillaboom. It still had that Sash, and then Dragapult would have been able to like you said, run rampant with those Dragon Darts, the little Droopies out here on the field, because Jiseok knows that he's in a position that's so close to take it. Nico here really kind of doing that last chance saloon here, going to be using his Gigantamax. He hasn't actually used his Dynamax yet in this game, and it's something I think worthy of noting because it's come quite late, you know, leading with the Dragapult and the Terrakion, where normally he likes to Dynamax that Pokemon, hasn't actually opted for it, and now he's in this position where I think it's too little too late for the Rillaboom. Urshifu going to go for the close combat, does a big chunk of damage, of course going to be reducing its defense and special defense, but it doesn't worry about that, it's got a Focus Sash, it can just do this again on the next turn.
I think this is the adaptation that Nico wanted to get into play a little bit earlier, right, was get the Ferrothorn in front of the Rillaboom in front of the Ferrothorn and try and use those max moves to be able to push through those defenses. That said, we saw the Max Quake and we still see that, quite honestly, it's not enough to get there. So this, I mean, at any point this Ferrothorn can just body press now and land that damage that it needs, even with the boosted health, thanks to being the Gigantamax. That's certainly not going to be enough to deal with this. So it looks like Jiseok bouncing right back from that defeat in the winners finals for a win in the losers finals. There it is, Rillaboom not even afforded the opportunity to move in its Gigantamax form, and Jiseok gets this one tidied up as quickly as possible. A really fantastic game from both players, but in the end, Jiseok takes it all the way. It's the end of that Cinderella story for Nico. He battled so valiantly through that loser's bracket, but unfortunately fell victim to the Clefairy there of Jiseok and the magnitude that he had on his team as well. But I think Clefairy really did put a spanner in the works with the strategy that Nico wanted to do. We've seen that Terrakion and Dragapult do amazing things for Nico in the loser's bracket, but unfortunately in this game, Clefairy just caused way too many problems. It wasn't even just the beat-up strategy, it was the fact that it was able to hang on and survive really critical turns to still cause problems in the next one that just meant Nico constantly had to readapt, and there's only so many times you can go to a plan B and a plan C in a match, particularly of this caliber. I think, honestly, game one was a little too decisive for Nico to be able to bounce back from, and it takes a lot. I mean, he's been having a fantastic run. A lot of best of 3 sets in this losers bracket, keeping the dream alive from losers round 1. He has to be applauded for that. That Nico, that is fantastic play, and it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him play out these games. That said, game 1 didn't go in his favor, and we see kind of the downfall of the beat-up strategy again, where it's easy to redirect with the follow me. He then kind of bounces back from it a little bit more, gets the game a little bit closer, but then the end game positioning that Jiseok's team was able to have was really, really good. And game 2, he knows he's got that kind of upper hand and just pushes that advantage. So commiserations, of course, to Nico Davide-Cognetta, a fantastic run. Congratulations to Jiseok, who is going to be bouncing into our grand finals from the losers side in a rematch, of course, of the winners finals. Yeah, so let's not wait any longer. Let's throw it over to Aaron and Rosemary to take us away with grand finals.
What's up, everybody? It is time for the grand finals of the Players' Cup finals. I am so excited about this because we have an absolutely incredible matchup to finish out the entire tournament, and that's going to be between Santino Tarquinio and Jiseok Lee. What's really interesting about this is where they even just kind of came from. Aaron, they went undefeated, both of them, up until the winners finals.
They did, and Rosemary, I think what's even crazier is that they also went undefeated in their respective regional qualifiers. Actually, both of them qualified through North America, so North America will actually claim the championship already before we even decide our winner. And Santino and Jiseok were the 2 undefeated players from that bracket, so I believe they went 6-0 in their regional qualifiers. They didn't end up going up against each other because they were on opposite sides, and then they both tore through this entire finals bracket as well. Jiseok's only loss throughout this entire tournament has been to Santino, and now here we are in the grand finals. He's going to need to win 2 in a row to take home the crown, but either way, this is going to be so exciting, especially because we've already seen these players go up against each other in that winners finals.
Yeah, I am so excited to get a chance to see the rematch because there's going to be some punches thrown for sure. But before we get into that, we got a chance to talk to some of our players.
My name is Santino Tarquinio, and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States of America.
My name is Jiseok Lee, and I'm a Korean VGC player living in Canada. I've been playing competitive Pokemon since late 2015.
I've been playing for about, I would probably say 3 years at this point. Last year, starting in the 2019 season, was when I really started to try to actually go for a Worlds in play.
My last official offline event in which I participated was Worlds 2017, so it has been 3 years. And it feels really great to be back, especially to make it to the finals.
It feels pretty surreal to make it to the final match, honestly. I didn't think I would get here. It has not been easy. All of my opponents, I can confidently say, have given me a hard time, and I definitely had to work to get here. It'll feel even better if I can take home the whole thing.
Winning would be amazing. I've never won an event which involves multiple countries, and a tournament like Players Cup, which involves more than 800 players.
Last words to my opponent, I would say I'm definitely excited to be playing you again.
He's one of the strongest opponents that I've ever faced.
I almost kind of felt like I didn't really deserve to win our set, so being able to kind of have our rematch, I think would be good.
Yes, I do have 2 water-type Pokemon which can check Colossal very well, but because he has a Choice Band Rillaboom, which can really threaten my water types, it'll be really tough.
I think we're going to put on a pretty good show for these guys in Grand Finals.
It was great to hear from our players, but now let's get into the action. It is the final match for the Players' Cup Finals, and it's going to be between Santino Tarquinio and Jiseok Lee. The rematch from the winners' finals. And Aaron, we saw some great defensive play from both of these players.
Yeah, what's so interesting is, of course, Santino, the premier Colossal player qualifying for this tournament using Colossal. I spoke to him a little bit before this tournament, and he says he's been using Colossal for months now, so really excited that he's been able to make it all the way to the finals with this team. But Jiseok, I think, also a very innovative team builder in this format, of course, qualifying for the finals with a Porygon Z team and Clefairy. He's brought that Clefairy now, but he's kind of switched it up for some more defense with Pokemon like Ferrothorn. However, a lot of strong attackers on this team, including the Dragapult, the Primarina, and the Urshifu. And this matchup is so dynamic because for Santino, it's all about enabling the Colossal, and for Jiseok, it's all about trying to deny that Colossal setup.
Well, for those of you that might have missed it, let's take a deeper look at Santino's profile and that team that he has decided to bring with that Colossal. In 2019, he was able to get top 4 at the regionals, but it's that Colossal that everybody has their eyes on. I think that's going to be one of the defining features of this team, setting it up right next to that super strong core that he has on the team.
It absolutely is, Rosemary, and I think if Santino is going to win this finals, he's basically going to need to get as much mileage off as possible with Colossal. Colossal is the star of this team. Unlike a lot of other teams in VGC 2020, which maybe often have 2 or 3 Pokemon that can Dynamax very frequently, yeah, maybe you can Dynamax like the Rillaboom or Urshifu on this team, but I think if Colossal isn't maxing, then there's a big question mark because it's pretty much all about enabling it. You've got 2 ways to activate its Steam Engine plus Weakness Policy combination through the Surf on the Dragapult and the Aqua Jet from the Urshifu. Tons of great support as we've seen. Yawn on the Togekiss, Incineroar for the Intimidate, and then Choice Band Rillaboom to just do so much damage.
But on the flip side of that, we got a chance to see how much trouble this Clefairy that you mentioned from Jiseok's team really gave Santino in that winners finals. And alongside Pokemon like the Dragapult, the Urshifu, the Primarina, Jiseok has definitely not made Santino's job easy to make it to this grand finals.
No, absolutely not. And, Santino is facing against a lot of big, scary threats. There's 2 Water-type Pokemon that just threaten, obviously, with huge, super effective attacks into the Colossal. Clefairy for redirection is really, really important as well. It means that you can't just, go with, for example, Urshifu plus Colossal immediately in the early game and setup because Clefairy has that follow me to redirect attacks away. So, I think going into this matchup, we've already seen it play out a little bit, but I think that's a good preview for how this finals will play. Jiseok will heavily prioritize these Water-type Pokemon alongside the Clefairy. And for Santino, I think one thing that's been really impressive about his play and, his use with this team is it's never about enabling Colossal on turn 1. He's always able to find these really clever leads where, he's able to disrupt the opponent a little bit, get a little bit of damage off, and it's all about finding the perfect position to actually enable the Colossal. So we'll have to keep our eyes out for it because it won't be very easy to just get it going immediately when there's redirection through Clefairy and with the 2 Water-type Pokemon on Jiseok's team. So redirection, I think, is going to be really, really important from both teams here. Togekiss, of course, playing a huge supportive role on Santino's team.
So maybe taking a look out for that Togekiss and that Clefairy, but it's been a long road to get here to the Grand Finals. Now it's time to kick off the action. Let's get into this very first game of the Players' Cup Finals between Santino Tarquinio and Jiseok Lee. All right, so from Jiseok, we're gonna see the Dragapult in the Primarina, and you know what? Santino might be trying to put on the gas here with the Urshifu and that Colossal.
Oh, wow. I mean, that is a really impressive call-out. I think Urshifu a little bit risky if the Clefairy comes out, but Jiseok does not lead that Clefairy, so Santino, while often playing a little bit more passively with Colossal, can actually just push the go button immediately this time around. One thing that's actually really important is what Pokemon ends up maxing from Jiseok's end. Of course, you're seeing Santino prioritize damage onto the Primarina. He's got that Rillaboom in the back, which can deal with it further later on. Dragapult's not exactly a very great option if it doesn't Dynamax. So we're going to see the Dynamax come out from Jiseok's end first. It is going to be that Primarina, so, you know, able to just go for a huge Max Geyser potentially into the Colossal immediately on turn 1. But Colossal will be able to get the Steam Engine going and will be able to get that G-Max Volcalith off. And of course, that's a lot of residual damage every turn.
Yeah, we got a chance to see in the winners finals how that residual damage really played to Santino's strengths. That G-Max Volcalith obviously able to do chip damage at the end of every single turn, and that set amount of damage means that you're able to secure knockouts in places where you might not be able to secure the one-hit knockout. So Santino has definitely been able to read those calculations correctly, and with this Aqua Jet, you might be taking a lot of damage, but most importantly, you're activating this Colossal Steam Engine and you're getting this weakness policy boost. So Colossal is going to be on a bit of a train heading forward into this first of games in this Grand Finals. Here comes the G-Max Volcalith. It's going to go right into the Dragapult, and that's going to be a knockout.
Yeah, and once again, I think Santino recognizes that with Rillaboom in the back, you actually don't need to prioritize KOing the Primarina immediately. Primarina is going to get this Max Geyser off, so that is just going to be able to pick up the knockout onto Colossal. But you got the residual effect now, right? That's going to do a lot of damage to all of Jiseok's other Pokemon, and this is such a deviation from how Santino's played with this team thus far. So I really like that he's actually changed his playstyle completely, just going for the G-Max Volcalith setup immediately on turn 1. Of course, now he is down a Dynamax Pokemon. Primarina will get 2 extra turns of Max left, but there's that Rillaboom in the back, right? Like, the Rillaboom can just come out. It's got that Choice Band, puts on so much offensive pressure. So Santino is kind of setting himself up for a late game with the Rillaboom, where by bringing out Togekiss right now, you don't have to worry about Incineroar having Intimidate or Fake Out. So I think the Togekiss switch-in is an excellent decision on his end here. And this next turn, you can maybe go for something like just a Protect with both Pokemon. Then the subsequent turn, the Urshifu can just go for a Surging Strikes into the Incineroar slot. So it's not often that you see a player kind of just go for a Dynamax and be willing to, trade and get a knockout immediately. Santino actually opting here just straight for a Follow Me, doesn't want to go for the double Protect option. Of course, Surging Strikes will be able to get all these critical hits off against the Incineroar, and with the Rain Up, I think it's just going to be a knockout as well. So Santino really wants to knock out this Incineroar so that it can no longer intimidate the Rillaboom, and then the Rillaboom should be able to clean out this game against Primarina in the late game.
Yeah, I really like what you mentioned, the Rillaboom getting preserved in the face of the Intimidate coming out from the Incineroar, as sure, Incineroar might be able to go for the Fake Out, but ooh, that is going to stop the Surging Strikes for at least one turn. Follow Me, though, going to draw the attention away from the Urshifu as Primarina goes for a Max Hailstorm. Jiseok read this like a book.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking it was a little bit risky to not just go for the double Protect option there. By protecting both, you block the Fake Out potential. Sure, the Hail does a little bit of damage into the Togekiss, and, you change the weather as well, so no longer have the rain. That being said, I think, once again, both of these Pokemon are going to be taking so much residual damage, right? You've got Hail up now, you've got the G-Max Volcalith ticking off as well, and Primarina has that Life Orb. So Santino now does get a free switch-in into the Rillaboom immediately. We know it's Choice Banded. It's got really, really powerful Grass-type attacks off. This Incineroar has not intimidated the Rillaboom either, so Santino has been playing so much more aggressively than I think we're kind of used to seeing him play, and I really, really love that kind of mix-up here, just changing his strategy completely. And now, the Rillaboom is out, able to just pressure with a knockout onto the Primarina, especially with all these really powerful Grass-type attacks. You can just launch a Wood Hammer into the Primarina if you want. go for Glide as well, obviously. And then the Urshifu can very safely go for, super effective attack, instantly Incineroar. So here I think Jiseok might want to consider switching out the Incineroar, protecting the Primarina, so then you reconserve this Intimidate. I'm really wondering what Jiseok's last Pokemon is, because it's got to be, I think, the Clefairy or the Urshifu. With Clefairy, you can at least redirect an attack away the subsequent turn, and I think that would be really, really critical, because if you knock out the Urshifu, then the Incineroar can handle the Rillaboom in the 1v1 matchup. But Santino is putting on a lot of offensive pressure here, and despite losing his Maximon on the first turn, still able to do so much damage. No switches!
No switches at all, so the Grassy Glide's going to secure the knockout onto Jiseok's Primarina. So not going to be able to get much more value out of its Dynamax turns, but the no switch out's huge. That means Urshifu's going to get a double knockout here with the Surging Strikes onto Incineroar.
Yeah, no switch, no protect, just willing to give up that Primarina, maybe reading into a potential, prediction there. And this is huge. I mean, let's see if this third Surging Strikes will actually be able to pick up the knockout onto Incineroar. I think he'll be able to hang on with just a little bit of HP, and it is able to hang on.
Damage, though.
Yeah, let's see. He's going to opt for a U-turn, so not going to go for something like a super effective Flare Blitz. Instead, it's going to be a U-turn that does a little bit less damage. And now the Pokemon that's coming in, of course, is going to take the residual damage from the G-Max Vocalith as well. So, Jiseok playing really, really aggressively there. Not going for Protect or a Switch Out. Yeah, ends up switching out naturally through the U-turn, but Urshifu is the last Pokemon, and Rillaboom in a very prime position right now to just get these glides off. I like Santino's decision to not go for the Wood Hammer. Wants to keep that priority with the Grassy Glide specifically so that he can outspeed the Urshifu in this late game.
I was thinking if Incineroar didn't go for the U-turn there, then it was susceptible to the chip damage, just knocking it out from the Hail and the G-Max Vocalith. So really heads-up play from Jiseok to say, you know what, this Surging Strikes is probably coming through from Santino's Urshifu, and if I want to try to get a switch in here, then U-turn might be my best bet. But stands to reason now, Incineroar gets a chance to come back out onto the field, and it gets a chance to intimidate this Rillaboom.
Yeah, the Intimidate actually is normally pretty good, but because this is such a strong Rillaboom with Grassy Glide and the Choice Band, I think even after the Intimidate, it should be able to just pick up a knockout onto either of these two Pokemon, right? So, the main value of Incineroar coming out here is that you're able to get a Fake Out off, and I think you kind of feel like you're forced to Fake Out into the Rillaboom. Santino now, the big question is, can the Rillaboom survive a combination of a Fake Out and a close combat from the opposing Urshifu? Obviously, Rillaboom can't protect; it's locked into Grassy Glide here, so I think you pretty much always want to target I would think Urshifu here with the Grassy Glide, but you could go for the Incineroar if you are expecting the Urshifu to maybe go for a protect. With Vocalith being off though, or one more turn of Vocalith left, the Incineroar is actually going to faint after the Rock's damage anyway. But you do have to be careful of the potential Flare Blitz into that slot. So you can see Santino kind of deciding who he wants to target. And then with Urshifu, I think launching a close combat into the opposing Urshifu is just super, super safe. Could go for a potential protect here, but you can't even protect against the opposing Urshifu attacking. So actually gonna opt for the Surging Strikes, which I think is a valid option as well, because you manage to crit through those Intimidates, and you don't get the defense drop.
Well, here's a crit. It's going to be for the Fake Out, though, so Rillaboom not going to be able to get a chance to move, but it is Surging Strikes now coming through from the Urshifu, and it's going to find its mark onto Jiseok's Urshifu. With those critical hits, the Intimidate doesn't matter nearly as much, but it's only doing about half damage to Jiseok's Urshifu.
Alright, here's close combat into the Rillaboom. Is it enough for a knockout? It is! However, there's still residual damage. One more turn of that G-Max Vocalith means Incineroar should faint. And now the Urshifu has that defense drop, so Santino opting not for close combat there because he knows he's intimidated anyway. He knows he's not going to knock out the opposing Urshifu, so rather just wants to get a little bit of chip damage off, and I think that's really, really clever because now you have the 1v1 against the opposing Urshifu. Urshifu already has a defense drop, so close combat should be able to just pick up a knockout onto that now, and yeah, even if you are slower than the opposing Urshifu this turn, with Incineroar fainting from the G-Max Vocalith, I think Jiseok's pretty much going to need a close combat critical hit to knock out Santino's Urshifu, and then Urshifu on the opposing enemy, if it just goes first, close combat will just be able to seal up the knockout. So a great decision actually to just go for the Surging Strikes, recognizing that it's not going to be able to pick up the knockout, and he goes first!
There comes the close combat, and that's going to be the final blow onto Jiseok's Urshifu, giving Santino a one-game advantage in this final set.
That was so aggressively played from Santino. It was a very, very big swing from how we've seen him play previously with this team. We were talking about in this game, you know, redirection being important and supporting these water-type Pokemon. And in the end, Santino was literally willing to trade Colossal, which fainted on turn 1, for the rocks damage. And I think that's so important because he's willing to let the Primarina commit the Dynamax. If the Primarina commits the Dynamax, that means Rillaboom has a really, really late game good answer against it, right? And in the end here for Jiseok, he didn't end up, you know, protecting the Primarina or switching out the Incineroar immediately. It takes so much damage. In the end game there, I'm thinking Santino's Urshifu could have taken a close combat, but perhaps if it was a speed tie, it was maybe critical, depending on, you know, how both of the Pokemon are trained. Either way, though, Santino's Urshifu ends up going first, so don't even have to worry about a, you know, a potential high roll or critical hit, and just able to secure the knockout there immediately. So once again, really critical that he went for that Surging Strikes instead of a close combat.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you don't have the defense drop to play against you if you do have to go through with that. But I think we're about ready to get started at this game too. Santino has a 1-game lead. Jiseok's hopes of this grand finals are on the line as we go to match point between Santino Tarquinio and Jiseok Lee. Jiseok is going to be bringing out Dragapult and Primarina once again, and Santino again with the Urshifu and the Colossal.
This is so different from, honestly, what I was expecting. I think, like, no redirection coming out immediately, and once again, Santino just changing his playstyle completely, playing super, super aggressive, and once again, I think that's a great mix-up. Now, this time around, you know, Jiseok knows what happened in the last game, and you can see Santino kind of debating between targeting Primarina and the Dragapult. Of course, last time around, it was just a free knockout onto a Dragapult. You trade knockouts, and then you get the Rillaboom in for free, and once again, pressure with the Primarina, and I think... yeah, if you're a Jiseok hero, what do you do, right? I mean, you could maybe max the Dragapult, but that is kind of risky. I actually think could pay off here specifically because Santino is opting to, looks like, target the Primarina, and if you max the Dragapult here, get a defense drop, and then, you know, you've got that Aqua Jet in the back with the Urshifu, but nope, it's going to be the Primarina max once again.
Yeah, this didn't play out super well in Jiseok's favor, given that Santino was able to take this game 1 with a late game Rillaboom in the back, but maybe things are going to play out just a little bit differently depending on what Jiseok decides to do with targeting and maneuvers in this first turn of game 2. We do see that Gigantamax Colossal coming back out into the field, and after what we got a chance to see it do, I have a lot of faith in this Colossal train right now, being able to secure yet another knockout, but gotta go through the motions first. Dragapult protecting this time around.
Oh, okay. So the protect there to essentially try to burn 1 turn of Dynamax and not give up the Colossal, or give up the Dragapult immediately, because, you know, just sticking around with Pokemon, it's really, really valuable. You don't take as much damage from the residual effect with the Pokemon in the back that you want for the late game. So Colossal, however, gonna go for that G-Max Volcalid, and as we saw, targeting the Primarina this time, and that's actually so much damage, over 50%. So great call out, expecting that Dragapult protect. Sure, Primarina gets the Max Geyser off, but once again, you have the residual effect off now, and, you know, there's the Rillaboom waiting in the back, so I think Jiseok could have maybe capitalized off this game by actually going for a Dynamax on that Dragapult, launching a Max Phantasma immediately, sacrificing the Primarina, and getting a switch in into the Urshifu in the back for his end, because then the Urshifu puts on a lot of offensive pressure. The rain is not going to be up, actually, but you've got the, you know, Aqua Jet and the defense drop coming from the opposing end. So, yeah, I think Santino making a great prediction on this first turn, doesn't whiff an attack into the Dragapult, and now you can just put on so much offensive pressure with Rillaboom, and you can see the kind of the late game offense that Santino has with this team. It's not just about Colossal. Choice Band, Rillaboom, and Urshifu just do so much damage, and Jiseok kindly enough set up the rain for Santino as well.
Absolutely. The rain is going to be able to help out just a little bit here for both of these players, as Santino still has the Urshifu on the field, as well as Jiseok's Primarina. But it's about these next couple of turns. Now that the Dynamax, or the Gigantamax, is gone from Santino's end, now Santino really has to capitalize on that G-Max Volcalith damage that's coming through at the end of every single turn. So what Santino decides to do to follow that up here is going to be really important, as Jiseok goes for a defensive switch, bringing in Incineroar in front of these 2 physical attackers, both Rillaboom and Urshifu. Not totally going to want this.
Yeah, you know, Urshifu at least is able to manage to get critical hits around it, and with the Rillaboom, actually, because you know, has this choice band, and with the terrain being up, Glide is still going to be a knockout onto the Primarina, but I think Jiseok making the only play that he really could by trying to pressure with Fake Out. But yeah, there's no reason for Santino not to go for Surging Strikes here. It's boosted by the rain, so it's going to do a ton of damage here. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I think the second one, just might be a knockout. It is, and that's so huge because there's no Fake Out, right? Like, the whole idea behind switching Dragapult out there is so you get Incineroar, you get the Intimidate, and then you have Fake Out the next turn, so then at least you can maybe Fake Out the Rillaboom. But because the rain is up, Santino does not care about it. The Dragapult was not putting on very much offensive pressure there whatsoever, so free to just launch a Surging Strikes into that slot. One play that Jiseok actually maybe could have considered was switching the Primarina out into Incineroar. Then you still get the Intimidate off, and then the Dragapult can go for Dragon Darts, and that actually does a fair amount of damage, and I don't think the, the Surging Strikes is actually enough to pick up the KO onto the Dragapult. So that's pretty much a disastrous turn. Clefairy is in the back this time around, so at least there's some, redirection support. But Primarina has, protected last turn. I think from Santino's end, you can very safely go for a Glide into Primarina and a Surging Strikes into the Clefairy slot, because the Glide kind of covers, if Primarina tries to protect or switch out, well, Clefairy has to follow me, and there is a chance in which Clefairy goes for a Protect here, so Santino going for exactly that. From Jiseok's end, I don't really even know what you can do. I mean, I think at best you can go for a Follow Me, just try to get a knockout with the Primarina, but it is looking very, very hard now after such an aggressive 2 turns again from Santino.
We're about to see another turn here as Grassy Glide is going to find its mark into the Clefairy that just used Follow Me on Jiseok's end, but Surging Strikes to follow that up from the Urshifu just might be enough to knock out this Clefairy. There's one hit that's going to be coming through, the second, and it looks like Clefairy is just in range of getting knocked out by the third and final blow from this Surging Strikes.
I just cannot express, Santino's game plan going into this set was so smart. I mean, he was willing to trade the Colossal on turn 1 just to get, a bunch of damage off, and then also get the Vocal with residual damage. And more importantly, the only way you can actually get that one-hit KO onto Colossal turn 1 is by going for, that Max Geyser. If you go for that Max Geyser, though, you set up the rain, and you can see how this the Urshifu has been fully able to capitalize off the rain, just doing so much damage with all the Surging Strikes, able to get the critical hits as well. So it's just really, really impressive how Santino has played this. And yeah, once again, I think Jiseok going for the Protect to trying to counter the play Santino made in that first game, but Santino reads into that, goes for the Vocalith into La Primarina, and that, damage early on is just so difficult because afterwards you have to deal with all the residual damage. You're in KO range from a potential Grassy Glide, and Jiseok's Incineroar just, getting sacrificed immediately for a knockout makes this really, really difficult. He's basically had to play this as safely as possible, but what can you even do at this point, right? There is a Togekiss out, there's still Vocalith damage coming out as well. That'll knock out the Primarina, so you could pretty easily just, I think, go for a double Protect, or even just go straight for damage here. Looks like Santino's content with that, knowing that Dragapult can't do anything against this Togekiss in the late game. And oh my goodness, I think we're about to crown a new champion.
I think we are about to crown a new champion, and with a Colossal, no less. But Jiseok is still putting up a valiant effort here as Togekiss is going to go for Follow Me on Santino's end to try to allow this Urshifu to do its job. And with the Dragon Darts coming through, it's not even going to affect the Togekiss. So Urshifu safe to go for this Surging Strikes, and it's going to deal the last bit of damage to Primarina to secure the knockout. It's just Dragapult against the world, and with what Santino has on the field, it's going to be really, really difficult for Jiseok to get through this.
Yeah, and you actually get to see that unique interaction where if you use Follow Me, both Dragon Darts actually get redirected into Togekiss. Yeah. So Santino making a really safe play there, knowing, okay, you don't have any recovery with the Primarina. I think he, really could have also easily gone for a Protect with both Pokemon just to get that Rocks damage off as well. But pretty much, so many different ways that he can win this end game. And there's pretty much nothing Dragapult can do in this position. Dragapult really has no damage against Togekiss whatsoever. If it had something like a Steel Wing maybe, but even then I'm not sure that's a knockout. So all Santino needs to do now is just click a bunch of attacks, and I think we're going to see him be crowned the brand new Players' Cup champion.
Aqua Jet comes through, not super effective here. Dragapult's able to fire off yet another Dragon Darts, and it does just a little bit of damage to Urshifu. There's the second Dreepy to come out and play, but Air Slash now into the Dragapults. We're still around for one more turn, but with the damage that's coming through from the hail, and oh my goodness. I'm just on the edge of my seat, Aaron.
Yeah, Santino playing this endgame. Yeah, we are. I mean, Santino's been playing this smartly too, right? He's going for the Aqua Jet just in case Dragapult gets 2 critical hits in a row on Urshifu. You get that guaranteed damage. So, you know, Jiseok's win condition here was maybe to get like a ton of critical hits back to back to back. By going for that Aqua Jet, you pretty much deny that as well. And now either a Surging Strikes or Air Slash will pick up the knockout. So, you know, if Air Slash misses, maybe Jiseok still has a chance. But if Air Slash connects, that will be the game of the championship. Does it connect? Here it comes.
Goes through.
Oh,
Here
it does.
Dragapult's gonna get knocked out here, and Santino Tarquinio is your new Pokemon Players Cup VGC champion.